If you have a smart speaker, you have access to the entire world of NPR and St. Louis Public Radio. All the latest news and all the captivating stories. Activate our voices with yours by telling your smart speaker to play St. Louis Public Radio.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Politically Speaking podcast. I'm your host, as always, Chris McDaniel, a reporter with St. Louis Public Radio and The Beacon. Joining me in studio is...
Jason Rosenbaum.
And Joe Manis.
And our special guest this week is...
Congresswoman Ann Wagner from Missouri's 2nd District.
We've tried to make this happen for some time now.
Jason
threw in what sealed the deal, I think.
I'm thrilled to have my grandfather's congresswoman on. As everybody who knows on the show, I'm a big Chesterfield proponent, and this is the congresswoman who represents Chesterfield.
We should have had your grandfather out yesterday. We did a big event, a ribbon cutting, and a chamber event in Chesterfield, and it's the biggest municipality in Missouri's 2nd Congressional District.
He'd be very surprised since he moved there in the 1960s. It's turned from farm to the Mecca of Missouri.
Well, and it is a retail powerhouse, I will say. Yeah. So it was a pleasure to be there yesterday, and I'm pleased to be here. Jason has provided some yummy cookies, as he does for all of the guests I hear.
All of the federal guests. This is a message to Lacey Clay, Roy Blunt, Jason Smith. If you come on our podcast, just like Congresswoman Wagner and Senator McCaskill, you get cookies.
We probably shouldn't have mentioned this because now all of our state-level guests are going to feel really terrible.
I can hear Schweik calling now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Where were my cookies?
Next time.
All right. Well, we're going to get into a few issues, but before we do that, you're a freshman representative, but obviously your political career goes back much farther than that. So why don't you tell a little bit about yourself for our audience?
Well, sure. I mean, this is home for me. The Missouri 2nd District and St. Louis County it's personal. It's where I raised my family, where I was raised myself. People talk, and Joe certainly knows the 25 years that we've been involved in politics and public service. But I'm really the daughter and granddaughter of small business owners here in the St. Louis area. I worked at my daddy's carpet stores from the age of 12 on, and went on to get a business degree, work at Hallmark Cards, Ralston Purina, great Missouri companies. I think it's important to have a member of Congress who has made a payroll and can read a P&L statement. And I moved, though, quickly from the world of business into politics. And I have done it all, starting at the grassroots level. I was a township committee woman out in West St. Louis County, Lafayette Township, for 9 years. Chaired the Missouri Republican Party for 7 years, and then went on to co-chair the Republican National Committee before President Bush then asked me to serve abroad as a United States ambassador. Came home after 4 years
in Luxembourg.
4 years of being the face and the voice of America internationally and certainly in Western Europe, and decided that it was time to put my own name on the yard sign. And after redistricting, ran for Congress in, as I said, my hometown, and here I am, a year under my belt as a freshman legislator.
And as a year under your belt, you're already, I guess, in Republican leadership, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Tell us a little bit about what your role is there and in the House.
Well, I was very honored to be elected by my freshman class to sit at the leadership table. There are 12 or 13 of us that sit at the table. These are weekly meetings prior to session starting, obviously led by John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, Eric Cantor, our whip, Kevin McCarthy, and several others that serve on that leadership committee. And that has been one of the most eye-opening and gratifying things, because you really get to lay out a legislative agenda. I get to represent the freshman class and bringing their concerns, their issues, advocating on behalf of what their constituents are hearing and want to see us move legislatively. So it's been a fascinating opportunity for me. Now, of course, like everything you get elected to, they don't tell you what the rules are until after you're there, and it adds about a day on to my schedule, but it's well worth it. That has been terrific, along with, frankly, serving on the Financial Services Committee, which is very important, too. And we worked, life's a campaign. You campaign to win your office. You campaign to serve as the freshman leadership rep. And also we worked hard to advocate to be on the Financial Services Committee.
Which is a very important committee in the House. I'd say it's one of the most important committees. Not to, throw gravitas your way, but I mean, it's true. So.
It is, and it's important to the second district, and that's the case that I made. If you look, and certainly the chamber groups and the Regional Commerce and Growth Association would tell you that upwards of 100,000 jobs are dependent upon the financial service sector here in our metro region, and we've got great companies, everyone from Edward Jones to Wells Fargo to Stifel, Scottrade, tons of banking, insurance, credit union interests. We spend a lot of time on Dodd-Frank and oversight hearings, and it touches those 400 rules and regulations, unfortunately, touch about every industry from commodities and agribusiness to healthcare to certainly our financial service sector. So it's a pleasure to represent those interests in the second district.
Now, the National Journal just came out with their list of goes from the most conservative to the most liberal, and Senator McCaskill often has cited the fact that she's usually in the right around in the middle, like 50-ish, 49. Yours, you came out as the 8th most conservative, and I know you've promoted it within the last 24 hours or so. Do you want to talk about that and what you think that represents?
Yeah, we were surprised, to be perfectly honest. But National Journal is a very reputable outlet, and what they do that's different than a lot of the other groups that score different votes and things and give you some sort of a rating. Instead of looking at procedural votes or rules votes, they actually take 111 key votes that would be considered a common sense conservative approach, especially when it comes to fiscal matters. We were very pleased and excited to score so high, and because I don't always vote with leadership, and I don't always toe that line. So I was pleased that certainly in their ratings, they felt that I was advocating on behalf of limited government and fiscal responsibility and jobs and free enterprise and all the things that they really score. So it's a thoughtful approach, and I was pleased to be among them.
Are there particular issues where you just differ with leadership that kind of may have contributed to that rating?
Well, it's hard to tell. I certainly did not vote for this last debt limit increase.
I was going to ask you about that.
And only about 28 Democrats did. We're certainly pleased that we're not going to default on our nation's.
But what prompted you to vote against it, though?
Well, because there was nothing that the president was willing to come to the table to work with us on, and I was supporting the increase with certain real debt decrease drivers, especially on the mandatory side of our ledger, that we put forward. But it was really his way or the highway, and without doing something with that mandatory spending, with those entitlement spending, without some kind of reining in of this, upwards of $17 trillion of debt, and looking into the future. I mean, I ran because I've got kids and hopefully grandkids someday, and I worry about the debt that we're leaving them. And I felt that the president needed to sit down with us and work with us on these issues, and he would not. So I didn't support that. There are a number of times that I probably break from leadership, but what I really try and do is vote the district. And this is a district that cares a great deal about jobs and fiscal responsibility and the economy. They care about the fact that they're hurting. Many of them have dropped out of the workforce. Many of them are watching their costs go up, especially when it comes to energy and health care and consumer costs. But their average paycheck over the last 4 years has decreased $2,400 per family. So, it's a tough environment out there, and I'm always looking out for their concerns.
Now, one of the big issues, though, that you've been focusing on lately is sex trafficking. And you were just talking before we went on the air about a conference that you just came from?
Well, I just have come from a round of meetings. It's great to be back in the district. We're generally, any given month, about 3 weeks voting and working in Washington and a week back in the district. And, I just left International Crisis Aid and their Safe Home, met with a number of women who had been sex trafficked and were victims. met with the first responders and those that are on the front lines helping and supporting them, met with many of our law enforcement task folks. And I will tell you, this is an area of incredible passion for me. I do a lot and have passed some meaningful legislation on the Financial Services Committee, but as a former United States ambassador, I dealt with human trafficking.
Oh, really?
Well, from an international standpoint, and certainly in Western Europe, where they were bringing oftentimes women from Eastern Europe, the Baltics, whatever, into Western Europe to be trafficked. The State Department puts out a trafficking in person report. It was something that I spent a good deal of time on and felt very strongly about when I served as an ambassador. But never did I think that here in our own country it was hiding in plain sight. Justice Department, and after we did some research, the Justice Department passed along numbers that upwards of 300,000 young girls are in jeopardy of this. And the average age of these sex slaves and these girls that are human trafficked is 13 to 14 years old. It is a $9.5 billion industry, and there has not been meaningful federal legislation on this issue for the past 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask next. What is the
Right.
Congress's role here? What type of regulations could they do to curtail this?
You know, we reauthorize every year the package that was passed some 10 to 12 years ago. But, you know, like everything in life, things move forward, and you've got to revise what you have. So I went to leadership, presented the situation, and told them about the number of American children, and mainly young girls, but children everywhere, that are being exploited and victimized in this way. Made a passionate plea, put all the pieces together, and we're going to be moving some pieces of legislation that are going to add more prosecutorial teeth to things, are going to support law enforcement, are going to set up some victim rights and resources for them. And then I am teaming up. So there are multiple pieces of this. Congressman Poe, who's coming in for the conference, and I'll mention that in a minute, along with Congressman Paulson and others, have been working on packages for some time that are really great in terms of updating the current laws. I am working on a brand new piece called the National Safe Children's Act, and I've teamed up with Senator Mark Kirk in Illinois.
Yeah.
And because, you know, if you really want something that's going to pass and get signed into law, you have to work with the Senate too. And this is going to go on after these predators like Backpage.com and others that are advertising underage sex. That's probably, based on the numbers we have, about a $45 million a year industry that is trafficking underage girls online, and they make up about 83% of it. So we're going to go after them. There's nothing in the criminal code that allows prosecutors. Some 47 attorneys general have asked us to do this. Teaming up with groups, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, across the board.
Pretty sure that Missouri's Attorney General has as well. So
yeah, I will tell you, 47 have, and it is St. Louis. St. Louis is in the top 20 for human trafficking.
Wow.
Not a
Really?
statistic, yes, not a statistic that we should be the least bit proud about, but something that we need to recognize and move forward on. So I am bound and determined. My feeling is follow the money. Let's shut down and make it a criminal activity. They've been hiding behind the Communications Decency Act because there's nothing in the criminal code that goes after this. So we've teamed up. We've got a good piece of legislation that I'm hoping to shut this down. It is abhorrent that people can order up, and mainly men, can order up a 13 or 14-year-old girl to their hotel room like they would a pepperoni pizza. I hate to put it that bluntly, but that is what they're doing. And I think organizations that advertise underage prostitution and sex slavery ought to be shut down.
Now,
What's the timeline for your
Right.
bill? Is this something that's...
Well, we're talking about doing a complete package. Like I said, several of the other members of Congress have been working on things, and we're going to have an entire package. I am hopeful. Obviously, I have a bit of an in with leadership, and we've been working on a calendar here. Now, depends on some hearings and markups and things that have to be done. It's my hope that we can move multiple pieces of legislation, including this one, in the week leading up to Mother's Day.
Really?
So
that's a really fast turnaround.
I'm hopeful. I really am, and it's important, that we do this and that we do it on an ongoing basis. This is also about awareness and education, and we're getting out in the community. We've got a conference coming up, Ignite. I would encourage everyone. This is March 2nd through 4th. It's going to be here in St. Louis, downtown. It is, if you go to the exchangeinitiative.com, you can register. Congressman Poe is coming in. Mayor Slay contacted me just a day or two ago and asked if he could come.
Via Twitter?
And we always tweet each other. Yes, we do. No. This was an official call, and we work very well together, and I think he recognizes that there is much more that we need to be doing. But we're working with Kimberly Ritter, with Nick's Conference Center, so visitors and conference centers, hotel management groups, transportation modes, the corporate community, school counselors, law enforcement, prosecutors. I want to bring everybody together so that we can talk about resources, best practices, what we can do to end this scourge that is, as I say, hiding in plain sight in our own neighborhoods, our own cul-de-sacs, our own faith communities, our own school districts. That is an American problem that is not exposed, not talked about enough.
Yeah. Now, are there any other major issues that you're pushing besides this particular package, or do you see this as the key focus for you this year?
Well, certainly we'll be doing a lot of work on the Financial Services Committee. I was able to pass the Retail Investor Protection Act, which rolled back a big chunk of Dodd-Frank. We will continue on our oversight when it comes to working with these other governmental agencies that seem to radically overreach into the lives of our businesses and our community. We'll be working obviously on health care. This is a big issue, and everyone knows what's happening with the Affordable Care Act and the concerns that the country has, the deadlines. Now, gosh, this president has moved things back 22 to 24 different deadline moves on this, a lot of different exceptions and carve-outs. We want the president not to act by, as he says, phone and pen, but to come to Congress. We want to work to provide good quality health care at an affordable cost with access for all in the United States. And this system is not working. We've got solutions. We'll be putting a solution package together.
Well, in fact, that's what I was going to ask you. Are there your dream things that you think would better address this?
I do, and there are a number of things. I do believe that it is our duty to take care of people with pre-existing conditions. I believe that health care, much like
How do you do that without a mandate?
Well, I don't think they need a mandate. I think they need portability of their health care. And what we need is a better competitive model. If you're buying car insurance or life insurance, that's portable across state lines. Why is health care insurance not? Why can't you shop that like you can any other? I am a big fan. And I was just talking with Congressman, our former Senator Talent, last night about association health care plans. I want them to be for folks to have the tax incentive for those to put these HSAs together in a pool that is affordable for others. Catastrophic care. There's liability reform. There are all sorts of things that I think we can make a more competitive model. Put the consumer, the person, the family, more in charge of their health care, their costs. The benefits that go along with that. Right now, I am receiving just hundreds of, and I've talked about them on the floor of the House, of emails and calls, deductibles going up, premiums going up, co-pays going up, people being dropped from their coverage. we can solve this problem, but we've got to work together, and I hope the president will work with us on this. So healthcare will be another, I think, key issue that we'll be tackling over the next year. And then in terms of work that I'll do on the Committee on Financial Services, Jobs Act 2.0 is going to come out, and I will probably have some legislation in terms of spurring economic growth, upward mobility. I said I want to talk. I'm tired of talking about job creators. I want to talk about job holders. I don't want to talk about unemployment. I want to talk about employment and giving people the opportunity and a shot at the American dream, just like I had. My dad told me when I was a 12-year-old working in his carpet store, go to school, work hard, get good grades, and you too will have every opportunity that this great country has to offer you. And I want that for my kids.
Now, 2014 is an election year. Your district is still Republican-leaning. I'd say you're favored to win re-election. It's less Republican-leaning than before. It has Jeffco, South County, whatnot. And
the 2012 election was not very close.
No. So what's kind of going to be your role as in this election cycle? Are you going to raise money to help other candidates? Are you going to be stumping across the country, across the state? What are you going to be doing over the next few months politically?
We'll see. I'm first and foremost, it's about the 2nd District and the constituents that I represent here. I exhale every time that plane lands at Lambert Field and I get home to Ballwin. And I've said over and over again, may work in Washington, but I will never be of Washington. We're of O'Fallon and Chesterfield and Oakville and Melville and Kirkwood and all the surrounding areas. And so their needs, their concerns will always come first and foremost in what I do. Filing opens up February 25th.
Correct.
I will be down in Jefferson City on Tuesday morning filing for re-elect. In fact, this is the first that I'm announcing.
Shocker.
And
I'm shocked that you weren't going to constrain yourself to 1 2-year term, but maybe I'm the only one.
The job is not done, is what I will say, and there's more to get done. We passed some 200 pieces of legislation in the House last year alone, many of them in a bipartisan fashion. And frankly, we've gotten no action in the U.S. Senate at all. Many of them are just sitting in a drawer somewhere, dying a slow death. And I hope that we're going to be able to actually move some legislation, have some victories, both increasing our numbers in the House and at the Senate level, too, so we can actually move legislation. One of the big things that I'm working on and have been leading up to the 2014 election, and Joe knows this back from my work at the RNC, is with women.
Right.
Women candidates and women candidate recruitment. That is my passion.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I actually asked a similar question to Senator McCaskill. Like, what is the challenge, especially for Republicans, of getting more women, female candidates?
I'll tell you, our conference right now in the House, our Republican conference, we have 234 members, and only 19 are women. That is a failure. And I just will do anything I can to improve those numbers. Women make up 54% of the electorate. And in our Republican conference, we have less than 10% of women on board. And I think women, we offer this breadth and depth of our life experience, usually as mothers and daughters and wives and business leaders and community leaders, that we bring to the table. We're multitaskers. We're solution-oriented. We're action-oriented. When we get things done, we always feel an urgency. We're good listeners. We're the ones who, come on, guys, we're the ones who ask for directions. You know this, when we're lost. And
it's the other way around for me and my wife.
But I'll tell you, it's I started this when I was at the RNC, a program called Winning Women, and we empowered the states to have elected officials and people run for office at all different levels. But now we've got Project Grow in the Congress. And there are multiple pieces of this that have to do with messaging, has to do with working with a lot of our male colleagues that have women running against them. But what I have focused on is women candidate recruitment. And I can tell you that I have north of 40 women candidates, I think, filed. I have great support from the leadership. Congresswoman Diane Black of Tennessee has been kind of my real partner in this. And we are now kind of winnowing that list down of what I would call Tier 1 and Tier 2 candidates. And at some point, once I get that worked out, we'll be happy to share those numbers with you. I won't make any predictions about what our increases will be, but we're going to elect more women, more Republican women to Congress. I told a group the other day, I don't want just candidates. I want women members of Congress, and that's what we're working towards.
Now, you also though have jumped in a little bit into state politics as far as 2016. You were one of the first major figures to actually announce who you're supporting for governor in 2016, and that's Catherine Hanaway. Happens to be a woman, but
yes,
also former House Speaker,
and former U.S. Attorney. So,
yeah.
By the way, do you refer to her first reference as U.S. Attorney, former U.S. Attorney Catherine Hanaway, or former House Speaker? I'm figuring out which title is weightier.
It's usually "Hey you."
I think "Hey you" would probably be the better option. When we have her on the show, we'll have to ask.
Oh no, Catherine's. There couldn't be anybody more grounded, and I think we all are. I laugh. And all you need is kids to ground you, right? When I was the ambassador, my children very fondly referred to me as the ambassadork. So all you need is a kid to put you in your place. And Catherine's been a dear and very close friend, both personally and then professionally and politically, for most of my life. I mean, we worked together as a team when I was state party chairman, and she was looking to take back the majority in the Missouri House for the first time in 48 years back in 2002, and make her the first woman speaker. I think the world of her, and I did jump in. I do support her wholeheartedly and 110%. For governor. I feel that she has the leadership skills to get this done, the vision for our state. We've got a Republican legislature, and it's time that we have a Republican governor, that they can work together, put out the welcome mat for jobs and the economy in this state. And no one has worked better with a legislature than I think Catherine has. When I look back to her time and tenure as Speaker, and I think about the work that she did. She then had a Democrat governor, Bob Holden, who I also hold in high regard, but and have worked with certainly through Webster University and his programs there. But she was able to fight back his tax increases in a very large way, leading the legislature. She passed real meaningful, what we call tort reform or a legal liability reform. When I think of the work that she did, massive work that she did on adoptive and foster care, she has an adopted son, and it was very personal to her, and many pieces of legislation that I think she led in and brought a newly formed caucus together to get things done. So I support her not just as a friend, but as someone who I believe is a proven leader with real vision who can get it done.
And the final question, though, there are other people who are interested in governor. It's still early, 2016. Correct. I remember in 2008 we were talking about a Mike Gibbons versus Chris Koster versus Catherine Hanaway Attorney General's race. So a lot could change then. But is there any concern that there might be a competitive primary for governor, and it could hurt prospects?
Well, I expect there will be a competitive primary. We always do. I mean, this is an important job, and this is our democratic process. I've been involved in primaries. We all have been. But let me say this. Chris Koster has begun the campaign. He's running for governor. He's raised well north of $1.5 million. Yes. And as far as I'm concerned, we're not going to wait for a year or year and a half or whatever to begin a campaign. We need to start talking about General Koster and his policies and the work that he's been involved in. And timeline-wise, really, I think the reason that we need to get started now is because he has begun and is very much involved in this race. So I'm glad she's stepped up. Others may, but she's my first choice.
Have you gotten some pushback from some other Republicans who are backing either Auditor Schweik or somebody else?
Not really. I think most folks are glad to see us talking about the race, talking about preparing for it, and really 2014 is a warm-up to that. You know how it is in off cycle. We'll have the legislature up. Obviously, members of Congress will be on the ballot. Auditor Schweik, who I was also with last night, is running for re-election. I think he's a great auditor, and I'm sure there'll be others that have an interest in getting involved, but we can't wait. We cannot wait and let Chris Koster have a free pass for the next year plus.
Let me close this out here. You can read all of our stories at stlpublicradio.org. You can follow me on Twitter at @CSMcDaniel. Jason?
Jay Rosenbaum.
Joe?
Jay Manis at JMANNIES.
And you can follow the Congresswoman on Twitter.
Yes, at Rep. Ann Wagner.
Very good. We'll be back next week. Until then, so long.
The Gateway brings you the day's news from the St. Louis region and across Missouri. It also includes stories from the Illinois side of the river and our Metro East reporter, Will Bauer.
In Alton, in Belleville, in East St. Louis, in Edwardsville, in Cahokia Heights, at Scott Air Force Base, I'm Will Bauer. St. Louis Public Radio.
Listen to reports from Will and all of our journalists weekdays on the Gateway, on the STLPR app, and wherever you get podcasts.